Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to find the hidden treasures and the not so hidden skeletons in the financial closets of big corporations. Today we are diving into Houston American Energy Corp, and buckle up because their latest report is a bit of a roller coaster. So what is the big news? Well, Houston American Energy Corp has been busy. They recently closed on a stock offering, which is a common way for companies to raise money by selling a piece of themselves to investors. Think of it like a small bake sale for a huge company. But instead of cookies, they are selling shares of their stock. This particular offering happened on the 21st of November of 2025. They sold over 2.2 million shares of their common stock at $3.5 a share. This brought in a cool $8 million before any fees or costs. This is definitely a significant amount of money for the company and shows that investors are willing to put their faith and cash into Houston American Energy. It is like they were able to convince a large group of people that owning a tiny slice of their company is a good idea, and that is the first sign of a company trying to grow or fund new projects. The actual deal to buy and sell these shares was ironed out on the 19th of November, just a couple of days before the closing. This agreement, the purchase agreement, is pretty standard stuff. It lays out all the promises the company and the investors are making to each other. It includes things like what information each side has to give the other, and what happens if something goes wrong. They also agreed that for the next 60 days, the company will be a bit restricted on selling more stock. This is to make sure the newly issued shares don't dilute the value for the investors who just bought in. Now, when you are selling a lot of shares, you usually don't do it all by yourself. Companies often bring in what is called a placement agent. Think of them as the super salespeople who help find the buyers and make the deal happen. In this case, Houston American Energy Corp hired AGP Alliance Global Partners to be their placement agent. For their hard work, AGP gets a fee, basically a percentage of the money raised, which was 7% of the total. However, there was a slight discount for one investor who already had a connection with the company, bringing their fee down to 3.5%. That is smart business to recognize and reward long-term relationships. But that is not all. On top of the cash fee, the company also agreed to give AGP warrants. Warrants are like coupons that allow the holder to buy company stock at a specific price in the future. In this case, AGP received warrants to buy 2% of the shares that were sold in the offering. The price they can buy these shares at is set at 110% of the original offering price. This means AGP could potentially make even more money if the company's stock price goes up significantly. It is a way to align the agent's interests with the company's long-term success. They also agreed to reimburse AGP for expenses, including up to $75,000 for legal fees and a chunk for non-accountable expenses, which are basically costs that don't need a detailed breakdown. Now, here's a really important detail. The warrants given to the placement agent and the shares that will be issued if those warrants are used were not registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or CC. This means they were sold under an exemption that avoids full registration. This is often done when the buyers are considered sophisticated investors who don't need the same level of protection as the general public. It is a faster way to get shares into the market, but it comes with its own set of rules and potential implications. This unregistered sale of equity securities is essentially what we just talked about with the placement agent warrants. So the company is issuing stock that isn't publicly registered, which is something investors always need to keep an eye on. Before all this paperwork was finalized, on the 20th of November, the company put out a press release. This is pretty standard practice to let the world know that they've successfully priced their offering. It is like announcing the menu and price before the big dinner party. It signals that the deal is moving forward and gives potential investors a heads up. Finally, like any good corporate filing, this report wraps up with a list of all the supporting documents. These are the exhibits that contain the actual agreements and opinions. Think of them as the detailed blueprints for everything we just discussed. They include the placement agent agreement, the warrants, legal opinions, and the securities purchase agreement itself. It's all there for anyone who wants to dig even deeper, but for most of us, the summary is usually enough to get the gist. So, what is my take on all of this? Houston American Energy Corp is actively raising capital, which is a fundamentally positive sign for future growth or operational needs. The amount raised, $8 million, is substantial and indicates a strong appetite from investors, even if it involved a placement agent and warrants. The use of unregistered shares for the placement agent is a common practice, but does mean there is a potential for future dilution if those warrants are exercised. The company is clearly focused on moving forward, securing resources, and executing its strategy. However, like any investment, there are always risks. The energy sector can be volatile, and the company's success will depend on its ability to manage costs, find opportunities, and navigate market fluctuations. For now, This filing shows a company that is actively managing its capital structure and pushing forward with its business objectives. Alright, that is our breakdown of Houston American Energy Corp's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.